Yeah, so I saw Zuckernog videos
Yes.
and on YouTube, and he's a huge crowd, confident, all these people listening to him, clapping at everything he said, and he was reciting biblical verses just like quick, off the dome, right? And I'm like, who is this dude? And then his teacher is Ahmed Deedat. So I started looking into them, and I started seeing how he was addressing Bible verses, addressing the deity of Christ and all kinds of stuff. And so I was like, wow. So I've never seen any group, non-Christian group, be as bold to speak, to challenge Christianity as I saw him. And so I took up the challenge. Like, is what he's saying, what is he saying? So I went and looked at the verse. Is Muhammad really in the Bible? Let me see these verses he's talking about. Because at first, it's pretty convincing if you don't know what he's talking about. But, so that got me really interested. I was like, wow, these guys they're bold. They're bold with it. And so I'm like, we got to be just as bold type of thing, So. So yeah, so man,
you're doing the work, and is that a Quran?
Yeah, man, it's my Quran. Got my little pocket thing that I usually carry around with me when I had the discussions and stuff like that. That's a Halali Khan translation.
Okay.
Yep. So it got the Arabic and the English. Yep. So. All right, guys. Well, welcome, man. This Imam here, Imam Fatim.
Yep.
He allowed us to come to the masjid and have a conversation, man. And I just want to say, first of all, I'm extremely grateful because of this, because it's not often that a lot of people are open to doing this, So you, from the start, guys, when we first met him, he said, I'm the Imam. You know what I'm saying? You guys could, take down my number, call me. He even gave us some Somali food, man. It was good. Cool. So it was amazing. So I just wanted to talk to you guys about some things I see in the Quran in regards to Christianity, mentioned in the Bible, stuff like that. First of all, what is your understanding of how the Quran views the previous scriptures?
Bismillah. There are a number of addresses in the Quran about people of different faiths. In one place, God may mention those who are closest to you, and He's describing those Christians who believe, and He mentions who, when they hear the word, the tears flow from their eyes. And then in other places, it may not be as favorable. I'll just say that. So it varies, and then we know our prophet, may the prayers and peace be upon him. He was one who one of the first to see prophethood within him was a monk when he was on a journey. So those things are there that show that there was this kind of relationship that may have been found in the Middle East at that point.
Yeah, there was Christians around, there was the Arabs around, the Arab Christians around, the Jews.
There were people with no faith, people of polytheism.
Polytheism,
So all of that was there. And so the Quran, it mentions them in several ways.
So this is why this is important to me, Imam, is because as a Christian, right? My authority is the Bible.
Yes, sir.
It's the scriptures, right? And so then when I find this other faith that's saying, well, that's not all. There's more. And here's the Quran. You guys are missing this piece, And so I'm like, okay, I check it out. And it talks about the Torah. It talks about Moses and Jesus and the gospel and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so it acknowledges as the word of God, as God's revelation that He sent down in these different times, right? So there's a link that the Quran or that Islam draws with the previous scriptures, right? So when I look at what the Quran says, it says that Allah sent down the Quran, confirming the Torah and the gospel, right, that came before it, and that Christians and Jews ought to abide by their scriptures. If they don't, they're of the wrongdoers, they're hypocrites and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, if I do that, how do I then reconcile the differences that I see when I do read the Torah, the gospel, and then I see what the Quran says?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. So I understand uh, the confirming of books and adhering to your book, be it the Torah or the Gospel. Um, but I'm not sure if I understand the need to reconcile.
Okay. So the message that I get is that it's always been one message from
Yes.
all the prophets is
Okay.
always linked.
Okay.
So that would mean that, even if there's, different laws come in at different times, but the theology would be the same. There's like one prophet's not going to come and contradict God's morality or is what he's saying about himself. Like if he's only one or is he multi,
Yes.
the prophet's going to say the same thing. So when I'm saying, so stuff like that, if I'm reading the gospel, here's a big thing, right? Jesus being the Son of God.
Yes. Yes.
And obviously the Quran is like, no, Allah is he doesn't beget nor is he begotten.
Right.
How do I reconcile, these type of theological contradictions?
I would say I'm not sure that you need to if you're adhering to your faith.
Okay.
So if
Interesting.
as an individual they're trying to determine which way to go, then that individual has a different struggle, and that becomes really one of faith over logic. What of faith over logic? What do they say? Faith is the substance of things hoped for,
the evidence of things
not seen. And so
I would say there's logic to that.
there's logic to that. Thank you. So in that sense, as I mentioned to you, I have two brothers that are pastors. When we get together around the Thanksgiving table, we talk about the things that we can do together because they're not trying to convert me and I'm not trying to convert them. And so I don't go into the water to challenge their theology. And my brothers will sometimes come to the mosque and catch Jummah. I'll sometimes go to their church when they have messages. And so
That's very
I'm not sure if I can answer it in a way that would make it controversial or combative because of my unique
for real
being here, right? So we have a different relationship, and we have the church next door and the bishop, and we interact. And so we don't interact on theology because anytime you go into that water, it can get muddy, and it can get ugly, right? And so we don't talk about theology. What we do talk about is how we can clean the neighborhood up or how we can help the people who are less fortunate. And those are safe spaces. And so the individual who's interested in a different, if they're not sure where they're at, if they are not sure which direction they want to go into faith-wise, then they have that research to do. And then at a certain point, I think heart does trump, this the feeling, the intellect. At a certain point, you say, "Well, I just believe."
This is my faith.
If you ask me, my family thought I was going to be a preacher. I can't tell people what intellectually or theologically was the first thing that moved me. I could, now looking back, maybe say the simplicity of it. I could say something about it, but really, it was an invitation that I couldn't refuse. In the same way my brothers them accepted theirs.
Okay. So you guys focus on, you said, more of the community outreach and more things that can bond you.
Yes, sir.
If we go into theology, those are the things that
it could be a challenge because there are differences. And as you mentioned, Ahmed Deedat and those who devoted their time to challenging people of other faith, and they say Ahmed Deedat did it because in South Africa they were getting, whipped theologically. I don't know, but that hasn't been my story, and maybe the story of many convert Muslim imams, you know. So it's kind of a different dynamic in that
Interesting.
sense. Yeah.
So let me touch back on
Okay.
what you said was interesting is that you don't think you wouldn't necessarily say that it's necessary for a Christian to have to reconcile as long as I'm abiding by my book and right as long as I'm staying true to what my book says. I don't have to necessarily reconcile. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. What I would say to try to maybe clarify and to be clearer is if there's no interest in pursuing or exploring other faiths with the interest in converting possibly, or there's uncertainty about your own faith, then there's no reason to reconcile.
Okay,
You know,
I see.
yeah.
I see what you're saying. There's no point in that.
There's no point in it, you know. It's just, you know, there are some people who enjoy the pursuit of knowledge and information wherever they find it, and those are unique people, you know, and those individuals have a different challenge than the layman who's just trying to find God and serve God, and if he's in his system or her system and is producing good and they're not trying to move away from it, then, you know, they have a different.
So let's talk about the perspective of the one who's, let's say, seeking, who's not sure just yet, right?
Okay.
Let's say it's a person who's heard about Christianity and is also looking into Islam, and so like they believe the Bible. Let's say they believe the scriptures, and then they come to the Quran. And it tells them to, oh yeah, the scriptures are good, and this also is just the final revelation. You know, it's all accumulated.
Okay.
And so, but they notice these theological differences. So for this person, how would you say that, like, how should they approach this when they see the theological contradictions?
For that individual, be open, do their research. You know, the Quran presents itself. You mentioned Surah Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Say God is one, the eternal, the absolute. There are verses that are simple that may speak to him or her, you know, and cause them to do more investigating. You know, if they encounter verses that make them want to do more investigation, I would suggest they do so, and be careful about their sources, you know, because every author has an intended goal and aim. But be open-minded is the best thing that I can say. And I wouldn't direct them to read this verse or read that one, because that is then my biases may kick in. And so I would encourage that individual to just, as many people who've come into the masjid and taken Shahada, they said, I read the Quran, I studied it for 2 years, I read everything that I could read, and one of the things I asked them is that, do you understand that you're entering into a contract with God, and every contract has conditions? Did you do the research? You know, did you come to these conclusions? And if so, then just repeat after me. So I would say the burden is on that individual to just do the research. And when people ask me, I will give them books, and I won't cherry pick, you know, and try to, you know, like it ain't to, you know, how people say to win souls, in the sense to convert people. You know, there's not notches that we gain. We just, you know, I hope that my life living is a witness for me enough that people say, and let me see what you're doing. And then they do their own investigative work.
Yeah, I like
you
that.
know.
So let me ask you this.
Sure.
You got background in Christianity.
Yes, sir.
Got brothers who
Yes, sir.
are, you know, preachers, man. I know I would love to be a fly on the wall in those Thanksgiving dinners.
Cool. That's what everybody say. Who's going to lead the prayer?
Right,
You know?
exactly. I would love to be there.
Ecumenical prayers, brother.
It's interesting. My cousin's grandpa, he's Muslim and has kids who are Muslim, some Christian, like the mom is Christian. So it's a
Nice mix.
split, right? Yeah, it's a mix. And so the Thanksgiving is always fun.
You know,
it really is.
Mama, can I eat this? You know, I can't eat this.
Is this halal? You know,
baby, stay away from them greens. You know what I mean? So, no, we've had those fun things, but you know, Logic, because we're on the interview. I know it's Avery also, but Logic. The life I came from, right? You know, the life I chose before becoming Muslim was filled with so much chaos
yeah,
that my brothers are just happy it's not that chaotic life.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, you know, when many of the people who come to Islam coming out of prisons, they're not, it's not a theological, in-depth awakening as much as it is a system that has helped them be better human beings.
I see.
You know, and so that's, you know, my grandmother, she said, my mother was like, he believe in that Allah stuff, right? You know,
That Allah stuff.
yeah, you know, and my grandmother, who probably had a third grade education, she said, do we believe in God? And she said, yes. She said, that's enough. You know, and just her simple understanding was what, I hope most of my interactions it gets down to that basic statement, you know, and I don't want to, you know, let a preacher get up here, a preacher will talk, but I got so many, I'm 55.
Yeah,
too,
there it is.
So my friend was buried, Eric Chester, Thursday. He had come home from prison. He was went at 15. He came home at 32. His mother and father are Christian preachers, right? And he told his friends, make sure I'm buried as a Muslim. And that was a challenge for them, but they respected his last wishes, and they buried him as a Muslim. And then they had a memorial yesterday. I went to it. The preacher got up, and the first thing the preacher said was, Assalamu alaikum, right? And he was Baptist too. And then he said, all I know is that he loved God. Like he went to the most basic and fundamental, you know, connecting piece instead of saying, you know, he said he asked him one day, he said, Eric, when you coming back to the church? He said, Pastor, you know I'm Muslim, you know, and they had this relationship, so
that's dope.
That's how I try to live.
Okay.
You know, so.
So now let me ask you this then too. Okay. With that background.
Yes, sir.
How do you view Jesus?
You know, my relationship with Jesus may have been influenced by my relationship prior to coming into Islam. You know, all Muslims, we all say we love Jesus. You know, Jesus is mentioned in the Quran a number of times, Isa and stuff, right? But I view him as the Quran has taught us to view him as a prophet, as a miraculous, born miraculously, born by a virgin mother, you know, with miracles performed.
Yeah.
So it's as the Quran has presented it to me, and I would just say with the love of somebody who was also Christian, you know. So.
So how do you make that transition? Because obviously, as a Christian or with a biblical view of Jesus, it's very high, right? It's not like, of course, he's the most like loving and generous and caring, and he's just so wise. He knows how to handle himself in every situation. But he also had like these claims about himself, or did things that we know no prophet could claim or do, you know. Unless it would be blasphemy. How do you make that transition, you know, into like, you know, I keep that love of Jesus and how he displayed himself, but then but he's just a prophet. How do you make that transition?
Well, I think more than anything, just a prophet will minimize that feeling if I said just a prophet, you know. But for me, it, it wasn't two things, I'll say.
Okay.
One, when I was raised in the Baptist church in Shreveport in the 70s, I I keep trying to look back and I think about the message, you know, and maybe it was the time period and the pastor himself, because I felt like he stayed in the Old Testament more than he did in the New, you know.
Yeah, I
And
totally get that.
so Easter came, and you know, and so we celebrated, but I don't know how attached I was even then to God or the Son of God as much as I was to this magnificent individual whom I read his, you know, and when I went to Jerusalem, I was on at the Capernaum where the Beatitude, and I could feel all of that peace, and I was connecting with it like a Christian and stuff, right? You know, and feeling that. But I think a part of my transition, even though my brothers went their way, was I keep trying to look back and remember what Pastor and Dr. J.D. Thomas talked about. And it was these things that still resonate with me from the Old Testament, and even when in the New Testament, about you know, character and about behavior, and those things I think spoke to me more than the person. You know, getting ready for the next prayer in about 15 minutes. So he's got a 3-minute. You'll hear that declaration that God is the greatest, God is the greatest, you know. And so, yeah, that's what he's saying in Arabic. Yeah.
Does he go for, you said for 3 minutes he does it?
Probably a minute, but I always said, depending on who it is. Go, it's like the singer. You got Mahaya or you got V, right? You know, so it depends.
How far does the sound go? Does everyone only in the neighborhood?
In the neighborhood, the homeless people often say, when we turned it down, why y'all turn that down? We like that. 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
You know, it's safety and security and knowing that something is consistent.
Yeah,
you know,
something they're familiar with.
And we've been blessed to be here so long, providing services, that we've not had any problems about the sound in 30 years, which is crazy, right? Yeah. People walk up, they say, "Wow, that's the first time I heard this in the U.S. on speakerphone." You know, they used to.
Wow. No complaints, no reports, no nothing.
Thank God.
Wow.
You know, we've been fortunate in that regard.
Is it a Muslim community around here?
You know, we started an initiative, my late wife and others, creating a Muslim village, and the idea was a safe zone.
Yeah.
You know, we started buying fourplexes that used to be cracked. They was going down.
Wow.
So we protested in front of them, shut them down, then started buying them, and some Muslims live in them. So
that's awesome, man.
We got 2 fourplexes and a couple of pieces of property.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But everybody come and you see drug-free, crime-free zones that the city helped us with. But everybody's all right. We call it a Muslim village, but it's not just Muslims who live in it or benefit from its services. It's the neighborhood. We neighborhood people.
Yeah, clearly.
I'm a neighborhood dude, right? You know.
You know, when you invited us in, man, you are an imam of the neighborhood for real.
I'm a neighborhood dude, man.
I'll tell you this right now, I've never felt, so we went to Masjid Tawheed, yes. And they were also welcoming, okay, right? Good. But we didn't get to talk to the imam. I didn't get to meet any of the imams. I don't think so, but just the Muslims there, they was open for the conversation. We talked for we went 2 days. We went the first day, they talked with us right in front of the masjid, and the next day we talked for hours. And so that was awesome. Now we got a different experience. We went to Oakland.
Which mosque gave you the challenge?
What was that mosque in Oakland, man? I don't even know what the name of it is.
I'll get it.
Is that WD Muhammad or the
So East 14, it's San Leandro.
not on 47 and Bancroft?
East 14th is San Lorenzo.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Primarily people migrated here, or was it African American?
It was African American imam.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That might have been off of
an
98.
African. No, he was a straight African.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a straight African.
He ain't have no love.
That man was a straight African. Yeah. But here's the thing: at Masjid Tawheed, the brothers, a lot of them were Africans.
Yes.
You know, and so they was glad to talk to us. You know, and just talk, share, and talk.
Excellent.
With
Oh no, it was San Leandro. So it's Islamic Center, Masjid Al Farouk.
Okay. Okay.
Now with that imam there, that he did not want to like have a conversation. Like he just wanted to like kind of just preach at me. So when I tried to like, okay, you mind if I jump in here? They just talking, and he was like, you know what, you don't want to listen. So I'm like, no, it's not. I just want to converse with you. Yeah. And so he's like, you guys can just leave, you know. And so it's like, it just wasn't
one of our young guys, he must have been following some of it because he mentioned some of the things that Muslims have said, you know, and it wasn't flattering. I guess they didn't want no part of you. And
here's the funny thing. Yesterday we did a live stream.
Okay.
We did a live stream on TikTok, and we was like, for the Muslims that have a problem with God logic, right? Come on up and tell us why. And so when only a few of them came, there was people in the comment section that refused to come up. But for the ones that came up, we was like, okay, so what's the issue? Oh, you know, he's disrespectful. What's the disrespectful thing he said? Oh, you know, he said that, you know, Muhammad's a false prophet. Why did he say that? You know, he has reasons, yada yada yada. Okay, so he gave his reasons on why he believes that Muhammad's a false prophet. Yeah, but that's just, you know, he shouldn't be saying that. But it's the middle of the conversation. Do you believe that Jesus is God?
Right.
No. Oh, but you're allowed to say that. Yeah, but you can't. You know.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that. That's sensitive. But,
I could imagine. You know, and I think the answer for any of us is, you know, and you've heard it if you've been around Muslims. What do they say? The chapter 109. Oh, you believe? You.
I'm not a Hafiz yet. I'm working on it.
Well, I'm not. You know, I figured you might be logic. You know, hey, you know what? I met a brother a long time ago. We were feeding homeless and stuff, right? Near the shelter, and a brother come up to me. He's old. He's dusty, kind of, and he says, "I'm a Hafiz, right?" And I said, "Oh, you're a Hafiz, right?" He said, "Yeah, in English." Which is amazing because, 6,000 verses in English. And I said, oh, yeah, give me something. And he put it on his voice like it was amazing.
Went right into it,
into Baqarah. And I'm like, wow, that's every time I see him, I be calling people over. You got to
come do it.
You got to tell him. So anyway, but at the end of the verse, it says, to you be your way. You won't believe what I believe. I won't believe what you believe. To you be your way, to me be mine. And so at the end of the day, I think that is the case. You know, in some instances, you know, dialogue for good is different than dialogue for controversy. And aggression. You know, we got enough of that in the world, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I'm telling you right now, my viewers are going to love this conversation because it's going to be refreshing.
Wow.
You know, because it's to be able to, one, get an imam to sit down with you and take the time and just chat. Like we're talking, and they're gonna. I'm loving it. They're gonna, and I want you to see it. I'm gonna come back. Be like, did you see this?
Send it to me, because otherwise I'll stay clear. Because I like you. I like my cameraman.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want nothing to mess that up, right? You know, it's y'all sure. Cool young dudes.
For sure.
Can I ask you, how old are you?
I'm 29.
How old are you, sir?
29.
Wow.
So yeah, we this is what we do, man. So all right, so before the call, let's talk about Jesus.
On that note, tell him your biggest conversation on your channel.
Oh yeah, so the biggest conversation on my channel was, so I was in like in San Diego, Balboa Park, a lot of traffic, Muslims, Christians, whatever, and so we have a tent that we put up, to invite people for conversation. So 2 young Muslims came up. One of them was Somali, I think the other one, I don't know what he was, but anyway, they came up, and this conversation got 630,000 views.
Crazy.
Completely surpassed all my debate videos, all my controversy videos.
Wow.
And it was just us
kicking it,
talking, yeah. And they was challenging, like, if this is true, then why would Jesus say this? Here's the answer to that. Oh, okay, and they're getting understanding, and I'm challenging them on the Quran, and we're getting understanding of stuff. And it's just a conversation and us listening to each other. No trash talk, no none of that, but just exchanging and challenging ideas and listening to each other. Best video on my entire channel and all my long form content by far.
People want peaceful dialogue.
Yep.
They don't, you can turn on anything and get combative.
Yeah, get all the fights and stuff like that.
Confrontational, yeah.
So it's those conversations that I love the most. I like, when I talk to someone who can't be honest with me in a discussion, or like can't have this dialogue, I can't do it for long. I'll be like, you know what, man?
You cut it.
Yeah, I'll be like, have a good day, man. I'll tell them, look, I have nothing bad against you, but as far as conversation, we can't go.
Right.
And so I was like, so just
That's
take
good
care of
and
yourself.
smart.
So some of them would respect it. Some of those would be like, oh, you're running.
No
Okay,
way.
I'm running.
No way.
I'm running away, man. Say whatever. I'm running. So, but yeah, so that's how it is. It depends,
I'll take a look at it, your videos and stuff.
I don't know, man. I don't want you to.
Right. Now keep my feelings the way it is. Y'all good dudes. Let's keep it good, right? Yeah. You send me to whatever.
Yeah, I'll send you this one.
Send me this one. Be like, I let that dude in here. I should have. Where my killers at? I got killers all right. Where my killers at?
Oh my gosh. Oh man, this is funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
So you was talking about so you wouldn't say that Jesus is just a prophet to you.
I said, to me, just a prophet just sounds like, and there's a Quranic verses that puts everybody in this, the major prophets and then minor or messengers, but when you think about any of them first, especially nowadays, because you have people who say they prophets, you find that in the church all the time, right? So just a prophet would be, look, that's a whole other conversation.
Man,
look at it.
Second, third-hand embarrassment, bruh.
So
Anyway.
that's a whole nother, so just a prophet may generalize something that's big and God ordained, you know what I mean? And so what Christ came with was miraculous and transformative. And
Absolutely.
so there's no way to make that small. I just, my faith tradition just don't make him God or,
So yeah, let me talk to you about, because this is interesting, man. Now, when I was reading the Quran and finding out about what it says about Jesus, it honestly blew my mind at how, because, man, so let me just tell you. So when I talk to Muslims and they'll say, yeah, he's a prophet, he's not son of God or anything like that. He's, just human, like the prophets. He just was, ordained and assigned by God and born miraculously and stuff like that, right? Did miracles through God. God did works through him. Got that. No worries. But there's places, man, like, for example, it calls him Allah's word, right? That he cast down to Mary and a spirit from him and stuff like that. And I'm like, how do you read those verses and think that he's like just merely human?
Right.
Not just say just a prophet, but merely human, a human prophet, let's say. It seems that it gives him more, than that. What do you think about that?
I think in the same way that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. The reader reads through the lens and sees through the lens of their orientation. You know, and for us as Muslims, with all of those things, some of them maybe even unexplainable, we still see and hear through the lens of what they refer to as Tawheed, God being one and eternal.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't try to rationalize it for others. I would just say the lens and the orientation is what we see and hear through, and so everything that we read follows. Imam Muhammad, may God have mercy upon him, he used to say, follow the logic to its logical conclusion. And so if it starts here, then as a Muslim, everything that we read is going to be impacted by its beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
That's the ground's already been set. And
your bus came? Did they order?
Never came back out.
He never came back out? You got the money ready and everything. Now Nadir is from, I'm sorry, camera
No,
people.
we good, yeah.
Nadir is from Oakland. They was just in Oakland doing the
man.
work, right?
That's what's
And
up.
he's
I'm from Oakland too, man.
where you from, North?
He said all over, man.
Yeah, that's where my mom from, Sabrina. That's 5. Yeah, that's where my mom from.
Y'all the Mickey Moe and all them people from the block, huh? You know. So thank you so much, man. Allah bless you. Wednesday, I'll be around. Okay, sorry about that, Sheikh. Okay. Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum salam. So then, okay. So you're saying that there's a starting point with how they'll read the Quran and they just carry that thread. So everything that they see in the Quran, they'll read through that lens that has already been established, right? So, which I understand. This is why, so it's similar for me. I start from the previous scriptures,
Right.
and I'm reading. I want to be honest to what the Quran says itself, right? But at the same time, I do have a lens of what I've seen. Like in the gospel, it says in the beginning was the Word.
Yes.
The Word, you know it.
Yes,
Word
yes,
was with
yes,
God. The
yes.
Word was God.
Yes.
Right? And the Word became flesh, dwelt among us. We saw His glory as the only Son of God. Right? And I'm like, it blew my mind that even something close to that
Yes.
was in the Quran.
Yes.
That Jesus is Allah's Word. That He cast down to Mary and the Spirit from Him. You know. And
Yes.
I was like, yo, that's too close.
But you begin the conversation by saying that the Quran or Islam boasts of being a continuation of previous scripture. So for those connections to be found, kind of supports that rationale.
Yes, so that part of it, though.
Okay, that part of it.
So
Yes.
because you have that part where it's like, okay, yes, that's the link, and I would
Okay.
expect that type
Yeah,
of link,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's the other stuff there's that disconnect
Yes.
of the link. That
Yes.
He's the Word of Allah, but He's merely a man, and just like His mother is just a human and stuff like that. And so, according to the gospel, the Word itself, He is God. He's one with God's essence, and He reveals who God is, right? And comes in the flesh. And so there's that fundamental disconnect with
Yes.
the identity of Jesus and and His nature. You know what I'm saying? So there's a link, and then there's the disconnect at the same
Yes,
time.
I understand.
You know,
I
so
understand.
it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know. When I talk to my brother, or he talks to me about it, and I'd say he's Kojic, but he was apostolic, and apostolics got a little. When I talk to apostolics, they almost make you think that they are completely monotheistic, first, and then I listen, and so I'm saying that to say that it really comes down to how you're looking at it. You know, you see the connection, and there's obviously going to be some disconnect, because if it wasn't, we'd all be one happy family and proclaiming the same thing.
Probably still be Kojic.
We'll still be. You ain't
Am I Kojic?
No, I'll be pastor from
Pastor
a Baptist
Imam.
tradition. My mother raised us missionary Baptists. My brothers never ended up Kojic, which is,
I see,
like
I see.
Kojic wasn't even, in the South. There was a few tents being pitched every now and then with revivals, and they were, we call them holy rollers then.
Yep.
It wasn't churches. It wasn't no Kojic churches then. It was missionary Bible Belt.
Interesting.
So I would be pastor, not Fatim, Torrance Shea Washington, right? T.S. Washington. You know you got to bring the initials. T.S. I would be pastor T.S. Right? So, those differences are there, and it really comes down to how one is orientated and what system saved them, that indebted them to his ideology and his philosophy and his theology, and so whatever that system is, we cling to it. And I remember once, early on as a Muslim, and it was influenced a lot by the Nation of Islam, having a dialogue, a more debate with a young man who was, he was Christian, and he was trying to save me. And at the time, I was in my 20s. I liked those things, those kind of exchanges. But I remember...
You telling me that I'm not going to like it when I get a little older?
You're not going... Those confrontational ones, you're not going to like, because...
Come on,
let
man.
me tell you something.
That's like my...
Look, that's your... Look, let me tell you. But even then, when I defeated him in the argument, I saw the light go out in his eyes for what he was on. And I didn't like that feeling, because we were actually in prison at the time, and he was holding on to something that was saving him and giving him hope. And if I'm not going to give you something, and I'm just going to make you hate what I'm on, but also weaken you in your faith and tradition, did I do him any good? And so I committed myself then to never being into an argument or a debate or confrontation, or I wasn't going to try to defeat people, logically. If somebody asks me a question about Islam and I can answer it, I'll answer it and preference it by saying, for me, this is what works. So I won't, So anyway, that's how I got to this place where we're able to have such a nice dialogue. 'Cause, I don't think I could defeat Logic in his, in his you prepared, right? But I wouldn't have tried either. I would not have tried, and I would have just stayed in this safe place where I'm happy with what I've chosen for myself, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
So that happened to me when I was young, and I remember this look, and I said, I don't never want to do that to nobody again.
So for me, I like what you're saying, because I try to make sure that I pride myself on, when I have my conversations with people, it's to not win the argument, but to win the person. It's exactly what you just laid out beautifully. And so that's why a lot of people appreciate kind of my approach, my style,
it's hard to imagine you being this other dude that I've been told about, because you actually got a decent disposition and mannerism.
I guarantee you. So, I mean, I would like to watch my own videos with you just to see how you react. But I promise you, I guarantee you, it's just like this.
Okay.
Except for when they bring a certain type of energy, I do have to
respond.
Yes, but not necessarily like Like, because I get insulted all the time,
Do you?
and I take it on the chin a lot.
Wow.
Like, I will like, okay, yeah, but can you answer the question though?
Yeah.
Can you stop doing that? Can we deal with the verse? Some type
Nice.
of thing, you know?
Nice.
That's what I do a lot. Every now and then, I'm not gonna lie to you. Every now and then, one glove might come off.
Avery show up.
Avery show up, man. Every now and then, but still, I ain't gonna cuss him out.
Right.
I'm not gonna, it gets to where I make the person look stupid.
Yeah,
But that's never my approach.
You must have done it a lot then.
I do.
Okay.
So like, there's an example.
Okay.
Never mind. That's another story. When I come back next time, I'll
come back, and we're gonna watch some videos together on the screen.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then be like, "Oh, dude, what's up?"
Let's do it. I really want to do it. That'll be
Plan
so dope.
something like that after Ramadan, and God willing.
Okay, for sure.
You know.
So, all right. So, last thing.
Okay, sure.
I'll let you go. I don't know, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, it's coming. Prayer time is coming.
Okay.
Cool.
So, last thing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, crucifixion of Jesus, dying for our sins is a huge thing, obviously.
Yes.
As Muslims, chapter 4, verse 157, he was neither killed nor crucified,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Now, here's my question to you.
Okay.
Is how do you, because you have clearly you have an understanding of the Bible, how do you see from the Old Testament, or let me just ask you this, are you familiar with the Old Testament passages that seem to point to what would happen to Jesus, what would happen to the Messiah, like Isaiah 53?
Tell me.
Okay, so Isaiah 53 will go like around the third verse. Let me just read it.
Okay. Cool,
Forgive me.
cool.
Let's pull it out. Let's pull it out.
Hafiz of the Bible now. He's like Isaiah 53.
Isaiah 53.
Passage.
I can recite it. I can. But it's good to just pull it out.
So you're not interested in pastoring churches, though?
Nah, not pastoring, man. That's dealing with people.
That's the key,
like,
man.
I love people. I care about them. I want them to have understanding and knowledge. I just don't feel like God is calling me to be in four walls and stay in one place. I move around a lot,
An evangelist.
Yes, yeah.
That's
My mission is like going to the mosque on a Sunday, going to somewhere else on a Sunday. So whatever God says, if He calls you, you're gonna answer. I'll answer, definitely.
That's right.
That's my thing, obedience.
That's right.
So a few passages here. It says. So he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. But surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the punishment that brought us peace, and by his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the sins of us all. So that's just a few. That's like just 3 verses. There's 12 verses in all. Okay. It's deep. It's really good. Yeah. But so passages like this, in the book of Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus is born, how does somebody like Imam Fatim view something like this?
Hearing some of it for the first time, to be honest and frank, a portion of it I could attribute. Is it time? Okay, give me 1 minute. Okay. A portion of it, I would say, that sounds like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in his early part of the mission, abused and despised. The second portion of it is I hear it and respect its wording while sticking to.
Look at your smile.
You know what I mean? It's powerful. I mean, and I hear it. You know what I mean?
What you think? Pierced for our transgressions, carried our sorrows.
I hear it. I
bore our
really do.
sins.
And I respect that it's found in sacred text. You know, and as a Muslim, you know, I accept what the Quran presented as the story. You know, and that's because I'm Muslim and because I'm orientated towards this understanding.
Yeah.
But I hear it, and it's powerful, and some of it is the first time I've heard it.
Wow.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that verse with me.
Definitely.
Yeah. So my brother, I'm going to pray. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
This was amazing, brother.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be back. We're gonna
Come hang out.
We're gonna watch.
We're gonna watch
man.
it, and if you come during Ramadan, y'all can eat some food with us.
Oh,
we got
for sure.
Some more people, Indonesians bring food too. So.
I told you, man. You say food to me, I'll be there.